If there is one tried and true recipe for making a likable main character, it is to make them as overpowered as possible so that they won't lose any fight, but also make them a secret badass. In short, a main character who is an undefeated legend sounds pretty cool. So welcome back to Animeology, and today, we will show you the top 10 anime where the main character is an undefeated legend. Before we begin, be sure to drop a like and subscribe down below for more anime top 10s, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. Starting off our list at number 10, Assassination Classroom.
So, bullet trains actually give him motion sickness?
You'll probably feel better if you lay down in our room for a while.
Perhaps later.
Koro-sensei is a tentacle monster with a smiley face for a head, so he doesn't exactly look like he's impossible to defeat. Looks can be deceiving, however, and despite efforts from everyone from the military to a group of middle school students that he's personally training to be able to take him out, no one comes even remotely close to beating this guy. He's super strong, moves at incredible speeds, and can use his mucus as a disgustingly effective protective barrier. Ultimately, Koro-sensei's life comes to an end at the hands of his students, but it's only because he allows it to happen. He wants to be stopped before the antimatter inside him blows up and destroys civilization. Because he's the one who trained the kids to be able to do it, this counts as more of a victory than a defeat. Number 9, Garo the Animation. This anime focuses on the main character, Leon Lewis, a teenager who will inherit a legendary golden knight armor called Garo from his mother. Although he has great power, he does his best to overcome the hatred he bears from his mother's death at the hands of the kingdom. His father, German, known as Zoro the Shadow-Cutting Knight, is still training Leon when he is called to investigate the upsurge of horrors in the kingdom's capital. Although German knows Leon's will is wavering, he decides to bring Leon along to continue his training. As German and Leon head to the capital, the king's amiable son, Alfonso San Valiente, struggles to find a solution to the growing horror threat. But before he can do so, he is double-crossed and banished from his own kingdom. To return home, Alfonso sets out to find the help and strength he needs to reclaim the throne. During his search, he comes across Leon, whose interactions with the prince will forever change both of their fates. Moving on to number 8, we have Schwarzesmarken. The plot of Schwarzesmarken takes place in an alternative version of East Germany in the 1980s. Well, in such a divided Germany, a new species of extraterrestrial origin called Beta are doing everything just to destroy the world. They're really ugly and creepy monsters that come in all forms and sizes. The story of Schwarzesmarken follows the East Germany Army's 666th TSF Squadron, also known as the Black Marks. The all-beta story is actually just the foundation of the anime. The highlight of the story is actually a set of circumstances that involve our main characters, Theodor Eberbach, Irsidana Bernhard, Katja Waldheim, and Lisa Hohenstein, into the political tensions between the two Germanys. On the whole, Schwarzesmarken is a very good anime with a lot of action. The fights and battle tactics are amazing and super interesting. Linking to the past events in German history, Schwarzesmarken chooses the perfect setting for a political drama like the one we have here. Up next at number 7, Gundam Seed Destiny. In the first season, Kira Yamato was your typical over-emotional teenage, hormones-raging pilot. Then when he's reintroduced in Seed Destiny, well, it puts a whole new spin to resurrection and character development. He's so overpowered to the point that Gundam fans have named him Jesus Kira. You thought he died, but he didn't, and he has all these incredible abilities. But we have to remember that Kira was designed to be the ultimate coordinator, so him being overpowered is intentional, but in more ways than just one. Not only is he the ultimate coordinator, he has the ultimate Gundam, the Strike Freedom. He's so overpowered to the point that he ends up stealing the lead after the first half centered around Athurin and Shin. As he enters the battlefield, it's as if he turned on a video game, put on every cheat code you could think of, and just dominates. That's pretty much the best way to describe how he's overpowered. At number 6, we have Berserk. Throughout most of Berserk, Guts has shown an inhumane amount of strength and stamina, and it's not just because he can easily wield a sword that matches his height and weight. In his younger days as a captain to the Band of the Hawk, he slaughtered hundreds of enemies by himself. He also managed to go toe-to-toe with Zod in his human form. Not only can he dish out pain, he can also take an insane amount. It's not that he was given super genetic advantages or anything of that nature. Guts was born and raised in the battlefield, and his experiences just shaped him into the man he is. And if you thought he was a maniac before, just wait till you see him put on the Berserker armor. It makes Guts into the perfect lean, mean fighting machine. It not only makes him stronger, faster, and more agile, it just nullifies any emotion and makes him focus on the fight. This type of fighting style makes Guts an undefeated, overpowered legend. Number 5, Mushi Boogio. Mushi Boogio is a historical action anime full of overpowered characters, sword fighting scenes, and a main character called Jinbei Tsukishima, a young samurai aiming to be a master swordsman like the legend of his father. To atone for a horrific incident that occurred at his fault, Jinbei joins the Insect Magistrate Office, which is an organization created to fight against giant insects who have invaded the Earth. In an alternate Japan, Mushi, which are giant insects, begin to attack people and essentially bring down the whole country. Because of that, there are warriors that are rounded up and sent to fight them. The anime story follows one of the greatest samurai characters in that time, Jinbei Tsukishima. He's a member of the city patrol, and he is the one who takes the place of his father, who cannot fight anymore. Up next at number 4, Grand Master of the Demonic Path. Grand Master of the Demonic Path tells the story of the rise, death, and then resurrection of a man who wields unorthodox methods of controlling the undead. It is also, however, a love story between our main character and a man from his past whose devotion to him didn't falter even in the decade after his death. The story is set in a province of fantasy China where 5 clans of cultivators of magic live in an uneasy peace. Of these cultivators, the most peculiar is Wei Wuxian. He is the reincarnation of the legendary cultivator of demons and necromancy, one feared by all. Grand Master of the Demonic Path takes the time to flesh out an extensive backstory for its characters, after the brief introduction in the current timeline that comprised the first 2 episodes, and the fair amount of action compromising much of the plot of this Dongha, or Chinese anime, and you'll see it as being more of a character-driven story, and you'll love it. Moving on to number 3, World End. What do you do at the end of the world? Are you busy? Will you save us? Awakening from a cryogenic slumber 500 years after his ferocious fight with a mysterious monster, Willem Kemmich finds himself to be the last human alive. During his icy slumber, creatures of terrifying proportions known as beasts emerged on Earth's surface and destroyed the human race. All except for one, that is. Together with the other surviving races of this fantasy world, Willem takes refuge in the floating islands, living in fear of what terror still lies below. His new life feels lonely and meaningless, for all he has tied to him now is a number of odd jobs to merely get by. One day, a surprise offer to become a weapons storehouse caretaker graces Willem's presence, to which he thinks nothing of. When arriving at this warehouse, however, he finds it not to be filled with guns and other arms, but instead a handful of young girls. And boy, are they a handful. Connecting the dots, Willem realizes that these leprechauns, though resembling humans, have no regard for their own lives, as they identify themselves as mere weapons of war. These are the weapons he was tasked to look after. Up next at number 2, Plunderer.
母親を信じて歩いた5年間を
This is a new anime of 2020, and frankly, it's a good choice to watch, as it deals best with the theme we are covering today. The story of Plunderer is set in a post-apocalyptic world where humans have their identity branded with their own number count, which could define any number related to their life. May it be one's walking distance or amounts of compliments given to them by others, this count could lead them to the abyss when it has dropped to 0. Meet Hina, who has inherited a mission from her mother, whose count has depreciated to 0, to search for the legendary Red Baron. In her adventure, she meets a half-masked swordsman named Licht, who tries to hide his identity, as he is known as a degenerate for having an incredibly low count. Plunderer will capture your attention pretty much because of the unique world it attempts to build, such as the concept of the count, which forms the base of this anime's universe. But the only issue you will see with Plunderer is that it fails to introduce the characters in a way that clues us into who the main characters are or who we should be rooting for. And finally at number 1, Ronin Kenshin. The story of Ronin Kenshin follows the overpowered swordsman Kenshin Himura, a legendary ex-assassin who is trying to find his new peaceful way in life. Now, as a wandering swordsman, Kenshin is trying to protect the people in Japan instead of going back to his former assassination life. During his previous life, he has seen that the world is bloodthirsty and thrives on violence, and he knows that it's wrong. Kenshin is regaining his innocence. With each life he saves, or spares, he seems to gain a bit of himself back. He's able to live a relatively good life with the spirited girl Kaoru, and their growing collective of friends, like the wild-tempered but trustworthy Sanosuke and the plucky pickpocket Yahiko. Almost every single one of these characters, as well as a good portion of the others, have great characterization, and many of the so-called bad guys are really would-be heroes who just happen to be working for someone else. You could be rooting for Kenshin to defeat a character in one episode, and then find yourself rooting for that very same character in the next. That's why you should really watch the Ronin Kenshin anime, as it showcases a huge theme of personal peace and forgiveness.